Hello everyone, with Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Wednesday evening, September 10, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you all like this video. I'd really appreciate it if you all get this video up to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season, that's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so first things first, we need to highlight the fact that today is the anniversary of when Hurricane Ivan passed Jamaica. It was posted on our social media today, a nice little video highlighting the path that the system took as well as the effects that it had on the island. And it reads here, today in hurricane history, 21 years ago on September 10, 2004, Hurricane Ivan passed Jamaica as a powerful Category 4, bringing extreme winds and torrential rainfall, causing 17 fatalities and $360 million in damages across Jamaica. Do you remember this hurricane? And we definitely had some followers who actually commented stating that they definitely remembered. We have Fest Genius here on our X page stating, when I was 5 years old, them time there. We have Armchair Detective stating, my mom got one of the last flights out of Jamaica to come and see us in England before it hit. Remember the damage and the loss of life, a worrying time. We also have Parker _ strategist stating, wow, Hurricane Ivan was absolutely devastating. The human and financial toll is a stark reminder of nature's power. We even had some comments coming in here on our Instagram page. We had Urano _ Jack stating, wow. We have Real Katie stating, it was my first hurricane experience. We have Lizian one stating, no man, this make me say me I get old, the 21 years, yeah. We have Kamar that mighty stating, Ivan was my first hurricane, Ivan was my Gilbert, lol, but 21 years ago is crazy. We have Portmore Bell _ now stating, the hurricane that made me love hurricane season. We also have Pinky British _ Chroma stating, yes, I remember it like yesterday. We also have Strategic Computer Systems stating, Bull Bay and Caribbean Estate mash up that day. We have, okay, I think we already read that one. We have Ms. _ Petit stating, I will never forget this hurricane. It was my first and I was 9 years old. We even have Money _ go _fee _ that stating, I see the sky that night from inside my house as a kid. Even on our threads page, we had some comment coming in. Tricia.ma stating, yeah. We have Poker Etrofan stating, yeah, it wasn't a fun time. We lost electricity for about 2 weeks also. We even had some comments coming in here on our Facebook page. We had Sophia Lopez stating, oh, I guess this doesn't have anything to do with the storm itself. Let's see if we can find anybody who actually remembers this hurricane. Did we have any comments coming in regarding this? Oh yeah, we have 4 comments. Here we go. We have Shade Atkins stating, my nephew born in Ivan. We have Latoya stating, I remember Hurricane Ivan. We have Jermaine Montague stating, I remember Hurricane Ivan, and Frank Liben stating, like yesterday. We even had at least 1 comment coming in here on our TikTok page. We had Darky stating, never forget about it. And I had my baby girl a few days later on the 14th of September 2004. Wow. So do you remember Hurricane Ivan? I for one remember this hurricane. I was in grade 6. So you know my age now. I was in grade 6 in primary school. And we just started in September, and then the rain was crazy. I live in St. Thomas. So first the rain came in from the northeast. It was just some light rain in the morning, nothing significant, but by night, oh my goodness, it was crazy. The winds were howling. I remember looking through the window at one point, and I realized that I could slightly see the sky, but I'm wondering how is that I can slightly see the sky in that spot that I'm looking, because I'm supposed to be blocked off by the soursop tree in my backyard. But when we woke up the next day, that soursop tree was down to the ground. So many trees flattened down in St. Thomas, so many light posts down. It was crazy. Hurricane Ivan, there's a reason why Hurricane Ivan is the display picture for Weather Jamaica for sure. Quite a formidable storm indeed. Alright, so let us talk some climatology. We are at the peak of hurricane season. We are at September 10. So where is the image? There's an image that I usually show. Let me see if I can find it to highlight that yes, we're in the peak now. Is this it? Yes, here we go. So we're at the peak date. So if anything, we're at the mountain top right here in terms of Atlantic hurricane and tropical storm activity. September 10 is that date, and from this day onward, the activity usually decreases in general, but according to many experts, apparently it's going to be a loaded back end kind of hurricane season. So we have to stay, updated. We have to pay close attention to see if we actually get a lot of storms forming all the way up until the end of November. It's possible we could see something similar to what happened in 2020, given how warm the waters are out there, but not necessarily 100% like 2020. Remember how crazy 2020 was. Either way, in terms of the climatology, we're looking at the tropical and subtropical cyclone points of origins and tracks based on data from 1851 to 2023. And we're looking at the time period from September 11 to September 20. Definitely fitting, considering that today is September 10. And as you can see here, all of these yellow dots represent where we've seen some kind of a tropical storm, if not a subtropical storm, form. A lot of them across the main development region, a lot of them across the southwestern Atlantic, the Gulf, the Western Caribbean, off the west coast of Mexico as usual. And we see all of the lines that represent where all of these systems have tracked. A lot of them coming through the Caribbean, a lot of them passing to the north of the Caribbean. Very interesting times ahead indeed. Will we actually be getting something to form within the next 10 days from September 11 to September 20? We only have to stay updated in order to find out. And even the typical tracks on our origins map right here, definitely in agreement with what we just showed. The typical tracks extending from the main development region across the Caribbean into the Gulf, or curving out to sea to the north of the Caribbean off the east coast of the United States. And this was what I'm referring to. Look at the sea surface temperature anomalies. This map just updated yesterday, September 9, and as you can see, a lot of gold shades extending from Africa across the main development region into the Caribbean. And we know the warm sea surface temperatures are represented by these yellows into the oranges, into the reds in general, and we see that the entire Atlantic is definitely shaded in at least 1 degree Celsius above normal sea surface temperatures. So we know that sea surface temperatures have to do with how warm the waters are, the skin of the ocean, the top layer. And we need to also highlight the fact that across the eastern to the central Pacific, we have a lot of blues down in there. Don't know if a La Nina has officially been declared as yet. Last time I checked, we were still at neutral, if not neutral or cool neutral like conditions. And if we remember, we actually had Hurricane Beryl affect us when we had neutral like conditions back in July 2024. So it's definitely possible that we could get some formidable systems to formulate before we head into the end of hurricane season, because we have a lack of upper level wind shear across the Caribbean, because we have a lack of El Nino. We know that El Nino has to do with very warm sea surface temperatures across this very area, thus causing more upward motion, showers, thunderstorms, storms forming in general, and then bring us a lot of wind shear. But we don't have that here. We have the opposite, which favors us in general. But boy, these days I don't know what's happening. Not really much of anything taking place, but as stated, that could definitely change very shortly. And it's not only about how warm the waters are at the skin of the ocean, but the warmth at a great depth. This map is the ocean heat content that came out on September 10th, came out today. Look how warm the waters are the deeper we go into the sea, especially across the Caribbean, into the northwestern Caribbean, right here into the Gulf. All of these yellows into the oranges into the reds represents that deep warm water. And trust me, if we even get a system to sit on top of that, yes, we can get a cool wake like what we had with Erin right here off the east coast of the US. But because the warm water extends to a great depth into the Caribbean Sea, all it's going to be doing is churning up even more warm water instead of leaving more of a cool wake on the surface. So this is what these systems thrive on, especially if they're moving slowly. So we definitely have to stay updated to see exactly what unfolds regarding these systems for the latter half of the hurricane season. And as such, here we go. The U.S. National Hurricane Center highlighted a brand new era right here across the main development region. As of right now, the tropical wave hasn't left Africa yet. We would see an X and then the yellow arrow pointing, if not an X, in the shaded area where the system should develop. So right now, we just have a code yellow, nothing to worry about right now, especially considering the way in which it's pointed more so towards the west-northwest, which would give us the feeling that it could be passing just to the north of the eastern Caribbean in general. So nothing to worry about right now, but who knows, maybe that could change and then more of a east to westerly kind of track into the Caribbean. We have to definitely stay updated to see exactly what unfolds. As of right now, don't really see much of anything across the Atlantic. More than likely the tropical wave is still across Africa, still to push off into the Caribbean, into the main development region later on. Let us read what the Hurricane Center has stated. So they state here, a tropical wave is forecast to emerge offshore of the west coast of Africa in a couple of days. Environmental conditions could support some slow development of the system over the weekend into early next week as the wave moves to the west and northwest at about 15 miles per hour over the eastern and central tropical Atlantic. And we see that they've given the area a 0% chance of cyclone formation within the next 48 hours, that's the next 2 days, and a 20% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days. And if we actually take a look at the supercomputer model runs here, we're actually going all the way out to 12Z on Tuesday, September 16. 12Z, as you know, is 7 a.m. And this is where the system should be located at that time. So by that time, it should definitely be off of Africa and definitely in that area that the Hurricane Center states that it could develop. We see the Eastern Caribbean right here for reference, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and Trinidad and Tobago, northeastern South America right in here. We see the moisture and we see the red L that represents something trying to get its act together down there. Nothing really strong right now. We don't see any crazy circular isobars or contour lines surrounding the L. So disorganized, maybe a tropical storm, if not a tropical depression. The GFS, look at that, is a bit more robust with what's expected, and it's definitely in the same era that the Euro has it for sure, but definitely a stronger system. We see a lot of contour lines around that L. We see a lot more deep convection, darker greens, yellows, oranges, and red. So could we finally be getting that hurricane that we thought we were going to get a week or so ago, Gabrielle? We just have to stay updated to see exactly what unfolds. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can see a trough right here across the northern Bahamas. We still have that frontal system of the east coast of the US extending down to Florida and the Gulf. Another trough right here to the north of Hispaniola. Another trough right here to the north of the main development region. Tropical wave still right here. It's like it's stalled out right here just to the north of northeastern South America. And we have another tropical wave right here just to the west of the Cabo Verde Islands. All of these entities being steered from east-west, all courtesy of that ridge of high pressure to the north. And if we take a look back at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before we lost sunlight, let's see if we can make out all of these entities that we just mentioned. The frontal system and the clouds associated with it of the east coast of the US down into portions of the Gulf of Mexico and Florida. Another trough right here affecting the Bahamas. Another trough right here to the north of Hispaniola and Puerto Rico like we saw on the surface map. Tropical wave still right here to the north of northeastern South America. And another tropical wave right here just to the west of the Cabo Verde Islands as well. And we remember that other trough to the north of the main development region that we highlighted on the surface map too. And we can clearly see the tropical waves definitely pushing from east-west, all courtesy of that ridge of high pressure to the north. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean's weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Wednesday, September 10, 2025. It was stated that some rainfall could have been in the forecast of parts of some eastern parishes in Jamaica on Wednesday morning, also affecting sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes during Wednesday afternoon. And we know that eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, and St. Andrew. Central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, like St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Catherine. While western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? At around 7:15 a.m., the infrared close-up satellite image of Jamaica was posted, and I'd like for you to keep in mind that these posts aren't only made here on our Twitter page with Jamaica, but they're also made on our Instagram page with the Jamaica, on our TikTok page with the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page with the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So we can definitely see the clouds bring some overcast skies, if not some isolated thunder showers across sections of the east, so sections of St. Thomas into Portland, and even sections of the southeast as well, so sections of Clarendon into St. Catherine. If it wasn't overcast, maybe some isolated showers for sure. We saw some of the activity across the waters to the south of Westmoreland, to the southwest of St. Elizabeth as well. We saw some thunderstorms to the north of Portland and St. Anne and St. Mary as well at that time, definitely confirming what was predicted. And then during the afternoon, it's been a long time since I've gotten the chance to actually post the Jamaican Doppler radar imagery, finally up and running today. I'm grateful to see that. Wish it was more zoomed in, but as you can see here, it stated here, parts of some eastern, central, and western parishes in Jamaica are experiencing light, moderate, and or heavy rainfall per the Doppler radar's green and yellow colors on this Wednesday afternoon, September 10 at 1:29 p.m. So at around 1:29, we definitely had some decent rainfall. We see the greens across St. Thomas. We see the rain across Clarendon into Manchester, St. Elizabeth. Let me see if I can pause it just up to that point. I believe that was around 1829 UTC. There we go. And at that time, we're getting in on some yellows into the oranges. That represents some moderate heavy rainfall across sections of Hanover into Westmoreland, sections of northern St. Elizabeth, southern St. James, sections of Manchester into Clarendon, sections of northwestern St. Catherine, and sections of St. Thomas and Portland definitely getting in on some of the action as well. And the visible close-up satellite images of Jamaica right here confirm all of this. All of these clouds pushing from east to west across the island, that daytime heating contributing to that afternoon convection, especially across some central and western parishes. And the infrared definitely confirms it even more. All of these greens, yellows, oranges, right, represents that cumulonimbus cloud cover that we had. All of these sparkling white dots represent the lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes. We definitely had some thunder across section of Kingston this afternoon. A lot of these thunderstorms pushing into sections of southern St. Anne, sections of St. Elizabeth into Westmoreland as well. And looking back at the Jamaican Doppler radar, we can definitely see all of the moisture that pushed across from east to west across the island today, especially across the western end of the island. For sure, we see these yellows into the oranges that represents some heavy rainfall. And we definitely have some confirmation of what the weather was like in this year. This is Little London in Westmoreland, and as you can see here, it was definitely sunny for the most part. Nothing to do with bad weather at all. I'm happy to see that the Little London camera is back up and running. It has been done for quite some days now. Glad to see this for sure. Nothing to do with bad weather taking place at that time. That was 15:14, so that's 3:14 p.m. Can see the school kids right here waiting on their public transportation. Are taking a look at the total accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website. This map does indeed paint quite the picture of where we might have had that rainfall today across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes, just as predicted. And we definitely have some comments here from some of our followers confirming what the weather was like in their area today. we have on our X page Chirpy stating we're having some showers here in Meadowbrook. We have Canada Man stating the wet season is at peak. Well, not really. The wet season is usually at its peak in Jamaica in October, so hopefully we actually get the rainfall we want. We have Sophia Lopez stating overcast in her area. We have Jean Elliott stating overcast in her area. I have Latoya Taylor stating sun very hot in her area. Even on our Instagram page, we had the comments coming in. We had Devina 16 stating raining in Hanover, and we have Ryan that underscore stating getting some heavy or moderate showers in Hanover at that time. Thanks for confirming those yellows into the oranges that we saw on the Doppler radar over Hanover. Even on our TikTok page, we had a few comments coming in. Well, at least one comment is from Angelina Walter stating, I am in the south of Jamaica, Clarendon, and the place is cloudy. Alright, so that indeed confirms all of the comments for today. Let us reload the very latest still image from the Weather Noise website, the latest Jamaican Doppler radar imagery, the latest Cuban Doppler radar imagery, the latest Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar imagery, the latest Cayman radar. We want to see exactly what's taking place right now. Alright, so the latest still image from the Weather Noise website is showing 0015 UTC. As you know, that represents 7:15 p.m. So this just came out 18 minutes ago. Considering that, is it 18 minutes? Hold on, my math isn't mathing. So it came out, that's 13, if not now 14 minutes ago, considering that it is 7:29 p.m. right now. So 14 minutes ago. As you can see here, still have some leftover clouds based off of what we had today across the west. Some thunderstorms out to sea. I'm pretty sure the residents of Westmoreland into Negril are possibly seeing some lightning if they're looking off to their southwest. We see some clouds still onshore, so could there be rainfall under that? We're going to find out from the Doppler radar image. We can also see some blues into the greens across sections of Trelawney into maybe northern Manchester and northern St. Elizabeth. Let us see if we actually have rainfall down there. So we're going to be pausing it right there. So this is valid for 0009Z. So that is representing 709. So it's a bit delayed. I wonder if I reload it, if it will show me something a bit more updated. Because I just reloaded it. Still outdated a bit by 21 minutes. As you can see here, we actually make out the greens represent some rainfall. Let's zoom in a bit across coastal southwestern Westmoreland, maybe Negril. Definitely in line with what we're seeing here on the infrared. There are definitely some rain bands underneath all of that. So some greens represent some light to slightly moderate rainfall. And let's see if we're actually seeing that rainfall as well across Trelawney. Do we see it? I think we do. Just some slight greens. Maybe it could just be some light rainfall right in here. Nothing significant at all at this time. Regarding what is taking place on the Cuban Doppler radar, unfortunately it's still showing September 8th, so that's out of use. The Guantanamo Bay US Navy radar not showing much of anything across northeastern Jamaica, but we do see some rain bands right here just to the west of southeastern Cuba, well, just to the west of Guantanamo across southeastern Cuba, and we also see some rain bands right here across northwestern Haiti. Regarding the Cayman radar, we're actually seeing the rain bands that we just mentioned across sections of Westmoreland right there. Just some blues representing some light rainfall. We also see some more rainfall bands to the west of there, moderate to slightly heavy rainfall. We're also seeing some more just to the west of the Cayman Islands, pushing off towards the west, and we even see some rain bands here and there across central Cuba. Regarding what's happening right now, the live camera here from C Jamaica's YouTube channel is showing halfway through at around 7:31 p.m. We can see people in their vehicles going about their business. Nothing in the way of bad weather taking place at this time. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see that it's gonna pause. Okay, there we go. We can see that we have 27 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 28 degrees Celsius in Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Thursday, temperature should dip down to about 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 25 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow. This map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Thursday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Thursday. And we can see Jamaica right here embedded in the yellows that represents at least up to a degree Celsius above normal temperature. And we know the normal temperature for the month of September across Jamaica is around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And when that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica, that's around 32.2 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 32.2 to 33.2 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Thursday. And unfortunately, we have some maintenance outage advisories here from my JPS online Twitter page that we have to highlight. And we know that we have to highlight these because we know that when we have power outages somewhere across the island, it can definitely make the heat feel even worse because we don't have our fan or our AC to cool us down. So if you live or work in these areas, or if you have friends or relatives who live or work in these areas, please let them know that a power outage is coming their way on Thursday, September 11, 2025. We're referring to Lancaster to Poussey Hill in the parish of Manchester from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're also referring to Linman Avenue in St. Andrew from 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We're also talking about Woodhall in Clarendon from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Planters Road, Colbeck, Boys Content, Ruletown, all in the parish of St. Catherine from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. It states here, seek shade when outside. Eat fresh, try eating cold foods such as salads and fruits. Rest, make sure you get enough sleep and rest if you're feeling tired. Soak, take a cool shower or bath to help you cool down. And I cannot stress enough the importance of staying hydrated throughout the day. Drink lots of water even if you're not thirsty, and put away those sugary drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry air map, we know that the dry air is represented by what we see here on the key on the bottom. That's the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those rays. And look at the amount of dry air extending all the way from northwestern Africa, across the main development region, into the Caribbean, all the way to the south of Jamaica. Look at the dry air. No wonder it's so hot and dry. As you know, the dry air is responsible for keeping the atmosphere stable. Not really much of anything in terms of bad weather. If it was bad weather, it would mean, it unstable, the opposite of stable. But we're seeing some moist air in the blues across the southwestern Atlantic, into the Gulf, into the western Caribbean, in and around Central America, the intertropical convergence zone of the Atlantic, all the way up into the Africa area. And you notice wherever we have the moist air in the blues, that's where we have the clouds and the grays. Wherever we have the clouds, that's where we have all of the rainfall. And that's what we want. We want more clouds, we want more rainfall, so that we get more water in our pipes and cooler temperatures. Regarding the Saharan dust forecast for the next 3 days, so we're heading into September 11, September 12, and September 13. And as you can see here, so some light shades of greens pushing through the Jamaica area. Just some slight Saharan dust starting around September 12 into September 13. Some people will definitely notice it in the atmosphere, but is it really enough to trigger respiratory illnesses in some persons? We know that the vigorous plume is represented by the oranges into the pinks, and we don't really have much of that coming in our area. We like the fact that the more it pushes across the region, the more it dwindles and dissipates. That's what we want. We don't want any Saharan dust in our midst at this time. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that across the Caribbean we have some light shades of blues to dark shades of blues that represents anywhere from 0.5 meter wave height although to 1.5 meter wave height, and that's because of the winds that are expected. We see more of an easterly flow all across the Caribbean, averaging anywhere from 10 to 15 up to 20 knots, maybe even up to 25 knots, where we see these yellows right here across northwestern Venezuela, the ABC Islands. Regarding Jamaica's wave forecast for tomorrow, to the north of Portland we have 0.9 of a meter wave height, to the north of St. Anne 0.7 of a meter wave height, to the north of Hanover 0.6 of a meter wave height, to the south of Westmoreland 0.9 of a meter wave height, to the south of Clarendon 1.2 meter wave height, to the south of St. Thomas 1.3 meter wave height. And that's because of the winds that are expected. We see more of an easterly flow all across the island tomorrow, averaging around, let's say, I believe this is going to be 14 knots to the north of St. Anne, 12 knots to the south of St. Thomas, 15 knots to the south of St. Elizabeth. And we see that the least amount of winds are going to be across sections of some central and western parishes. So you notice where the blues are, that means we have a lack of wind, and wherever we have a lack of wind, that's where we're going to be having those low-level clouds becoming mid-level rain clouds, if not upper-level cumulonimbus clouds during the afternoon. So some daytime heating could bring forth some amount of afternoon rainfall, and the upper-level winds seem to be coming more so from the east tomorrow. So if we actually get some thunderstorms to formulate across the island, those cloud tops would be blown off towards that direction. If you recall today, look at the cloud toss being sheared off towards that direction. So something similar to what happened today is what is in the forecast tomorrow, if we actually get some afternoon thunder showers. And regarding the actual rainfall forecast maps now, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both valid for 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 9 a.m. Jamaica time. And what do both maps show? We're actually seeing some slight blues that represent some isolated showers across the far eastern end of the island. So maybe eastern St. Thomas, eastern Portland getting on some morning rainfall. And then the afternoon, this is about 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 2 p.m. Jamaica time. The Euro is showing rainfall in the blues across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. The GFS is showing more of that rainfall, more so across sections of some central and western parishes. And if you don't know your parishes, here they are right here. Pause and match the rainfall map with your ear. Could you get rain? The GFS, as you know, is more accurate regarding the afternoon rainfall forecast. And what it is showing right here is the blues represent rainfall across sections of Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, section of Western Portland, Northern St. Andrew, Northern St. Catherine, Northern Clarendon, Northern Manchester, section of St. Elizabeth into Westmoreland for sure. Not really much of anything, but the southern coastal areas, Southern Manchester, Southern Clarendon, Southern St. Catherine, Southeastern Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Thomas, or central to eastern Portland at all. So if you don't get any rainfall during the afternoon, don't get upset. But we see that rainfall mainly across sections of some central and western parishes for sure. And even the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps here from the Euro and the GFS are in agreement that it's going to be raining somewhere in Jamaica within the next 24 hours. This map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Thursday. And we're not saying that's going to be raining from now all the way up until then, but within the next 24 hours, these are the spots that could pick up some rainfall, anywhere from the greens into the yellows that represent maybe a total of up to 0.3 or 0.4 of an inch of rainfall out west on the Euro. GFS going all the way up to 0.82 of an inch of rainfall, almost an inch. It could be more than that, it could be less than that. We have to take these forecasts with a grain of salt, and whatever happens, we'll definitely take it, because we're in the month of September, and in Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the top, we usually receive around 90 millimeters of rainfall in September. In Montego Bay, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the bottom, we usually receive close to 7 inches of rainfall for the month of September. And I would like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of September or for the entire year, you can visit weatherandclimate.com and that website to show you that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters. We know that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall, so you can do the math yourself. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us according to the latest Euro and GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top as we go to the next one, John 68 hours. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens that represents inches of rainfall. So let's see what's going to be taking place. Alright, so we just looked at Thursday's forecast. Now it's time to look at Friday. And as you see here, 12Z, as you know, represents 7 a.m. on Friday. On the Euro, we're not really seeing much of anything. I think I see a dot of green right here across the eastern end. We're also seeing a lot of moisture and an L and some isobars surrounding that L right here just to the southwest of Mexico. So could we have Mario right there by 7 a.m. on Friday? Interesting. Could even have Mario already. We'll see. The Eastern Pacific maps are showing later. But Friday morning, not really much of anything across Jamaica. Friday afternoon, it looks like some rainfall mainly across sections of some northern and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Friday morning, not really much of anything. Friday afternoon, maybe some rainfall across some northern and western parishes, just like the Euro. What do we see on Saturday morning? On Saturday morning, not really seeing much of anything across Jamaica. Saturday afternoon, some rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Saturday morning, maybe some rainfall across the western end. Saturday afternoon, rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. Interesting, just like the Euro. What do we see on Sunday morning? Not really seeing much of anything across Jamaica. Sunday afternoon, maybe some greens represent rainfall across sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Sunday morning, rainfall across the water source south and maybe the far eastern end of the island. Then Sunday afternoon, looks like some rainfall mainly across some northern parishes here. What do we see on a Monday morning? Monday morning, we see some isolated showers to the south of us on the Euro. Monday afternoon, looks like some rainfall in the greens across the eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the GFS show for Monday? Monday morning, rainfall to the south of us. Then Monday afternoon, rainfall across sections of some central and western parishes. What do we see on Tuesday morning? On Tuesday morning, we see rainfall to the north, maybe some northern parishes. Tuesday afternoon, we see some rainfall across sections of some southern and eastern parishes. Then we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for Wednesday, September 17. Not really seeing much of anything across Jamaica right there. But regarding the GFS, Tuesday morning, maybe some rainfall to the south of us, maybe across the far eastern end. Tuesday afternoon, rainfall across some southern and western parishes. And we're stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours as well. So this is valid for Wednesday, September 17, just like on the Euro. And we're seeing some isolated showers across some northern parishes. We need to also highlight some moisture right here, maybe across the northeastern Caribbean. We see some of it across the waters to the south of the Dominican Republic on the Euro. GFS more so to the east of there, even although yes, we have the rainfall to the south of the Dominican Republic. In and around the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, we're also seeing crazy rainfall across the area near Belize right there into the Yucatan. Maybe some deep convection, maybe an L that represents a low pressure system. The Euro shows some moisture down there, but nothing as organized as what the GFS is showing. Very interesting times ahead for sure. We'll see it actually plays out and actually pans out as we head throughout the next 7 days. And regarding the total accumulated precipitation for the next 7 days, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are actually in agreement that there's a lot of rainfall in store for a portion of the Yucatan, Central America into portion of Northern South America for the next 7 days. Both of these maps are showing other rainfall that's expected from now up until Wednesday, September 17. And we see the dark reds into the purples and the pinks. That represents anywhere from 2 all the way up to 5 inches of rainfall for sure. We're also seeing some rainfall across sections of Florida into the Bahamas. And that represents almost similar rainfall totals. Maybe the 2 to 3 inches for sure. While other areas that are shaded in the yellows, oranges, and reds that represents at least an inch of rainfall or less. Definitely the Greater Antilles and the Lesser Antilles for sure will be getting those rainfall totals. But regarding Jamaica's rainfall totals for the next 7 days, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until Wednesday, September 17. The Euro showing Jamaica shaded from the eastern end to the western end in those greens, yellows, and slight oranges that represents a total of maybe 6 to 8 millimeters in Trelawney. The GFS definitely showing something similar, the blues into the greens, into the yellows, into the oranges, especially across the western end of the island, the northwestern end more so. Maybe up to 50, maybe 60 millimeters of rainfall. We'll see it actually plays out, and whatever happens, I will definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs if God spares life. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have numerous troughs across the northern portion of the North Atlantic, a trough affecting the northern Bahamas, a trough to the north of the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, another trough right here to the north of the main development region, tropical wave still stalled out right here to the north of Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, tropical wave just to the west of the Cabo Verde Islands. Not really much of anything at all elsewhere across the Caribbean. But if we actually take a look at the Puerto Rican Doppler radar today, down there near the Leeward Islands, what did we see? Not really much of anything at this time, but we do see some rain bands just to the west of Puerto Rico. Loading these Doppler radar images from earlier today. Maybe some isolated showers might have affected the US and British Virgin Islands, maybe eastern to central Puerto Rico, but that was basically it. The Barbados radar, on the other hand, if we zoom out a bit, actually confirms some decent rainfall passing to the south of Barbados, some light to moderate, even some slightly heavy rainfall pushing into section of the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago as well. And regarding the weather view of Doppler radar images, we can definitely see some rainfall across section of Florida, section of northern Cuba, some rainfall across the western Caribbean into the Yucatan, northern Guatemala into Honduras right there. We also see some rain bands right here to the south of Barbados pushing into Trinidad and Tobago, just like what we saw on the Barbados radar. And regarding the rainfall that's expected within the next 24 hours, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Thursday. And we can see the greens into the yellows, into the oranges and the reds that represents what we see here on the key on the right. That's 0.1 of an inch of rainfall, all the way up to an inch of rainfall for sure. Definitely in store for Florida, section of the Bahamas, Cuba, the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Haiti, the Northern and Western Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, anywhere from Guadeloupe southward Dominica, Martinique, section of Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, sections of Trinidad and Tobago, northwestern Guyana, sections of Venezuela, sections of Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, the Yucatan, definitely in agreement on both the year and the GFS malls. That rainfall is definitely in store for sure. And you know, the more rainfall is wherever we have the reds in there. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across the Caribbean. Regarding what's happening on the 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook here across the Eastern Pacific, nothing here to talk about. Let me see if we still have what was the name of that system that was north of Hawaii. Well, it doesn't seem like we have it. The Central Pacific map there, not showing much of anything. But look at this right here. We have a code red just to the south of Mexico. We've been talking about this, so it could possibly develop into the next name system tomorrow. There's a lot of deep convection right in here just to the south of Mexico, trying to get its act together to become Mario. As you know, that's the next name. Kiko no longer exists, so we'll see if we actually get something to form. Hopefully it doesn't affect coastal Mexico at all. Regarding the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, Western Pacific, nothing really taking place over there. But we're still watching the Indian Ocean. We actually see something up there. I code yellow right here just to the west of Asia in general, where we have India and all of those areas, Pakistan. We have that tropical cyclone right here just to the east of Madagascar. And to the east of that tropical cyclone, we actually have a code red, something that's trying to get its act together to become the next name system over there in the southern Indian Ocean. As of right now, we're still monitoring that Indian Ocean, southern Indian Ocean system, now packing maximum sustainment of 35 knots. Still should maintain that status all the way into September 12. 35 knots, as you know, represents tropical storm status for sure. It doesn't seem like it's going to be affecting land at all. As you can see, the path that it's taking definitely pushes it out more so to sea. Even although we have some little islands out here, it doesn't seem like it's going to be affecting those islands at all. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.